Here's the thing about war. Sometimes your worst enemy isn't the guy shooting at you from the other trench, it's the genius on your own team who can't read a map. Picture this. The 3rd day of October, 1944, somewhere in the Pacific Ocean near Morotai. Elite American pilots spot a submarine submerging in the distance. They've got their blood pumping, their trigger fingers itching, and their brains operating at about 15% capacity. Without checking coordinates, without confirming the target, without even glancing at the giant submarine safety zone, do not shoot here. Marking on their charts, they drop bombs on it. Spoiler alert, it's USS Seawolf, one of America's most decorated submarines, with 13 battle stars and a kill record that would make the Japanese Navy cry into their sake. If you've ever locked yourself out of your own car and then called the cops on it for suspicious activity, congratulations, you understand the tactical brilliance we're dealing with here. This is the story of how the United States Navy managed to do what the entire Imperial Japanese Navy couldn't: sink the legendary USS Seawolf. Not in a heroic last stand. Not in a climactic duel with enemy destroyers. Nope. She got sent to the Shadow Realm by her own teammates, in a designated safe zone, while trying to identify herself. Its friendly fire so spectacular, so catastrophically stupid, that it deserves its own wing in the Museum of Military Incompetence. And the best part? Nobody got fired. Nobody got demoted. The commanders responsible probably finished the war with clean records and medals on their chests. Because in the military, apparently, accountability is optional when you're wearing the right uniform. The War Machine. By October 1944, American submarines owned the Pacific. While carriers grabbed headlines and battleships flexed their big guns, boats like USS Seawolf were the real nightmare for Japan. Diesel-electric predators slipping through the darkness, turning convoys into artificial reefs, and vanishing before the escorts even knew what hit them. The Japanese merchant marine was hemorrhaging ships faster than they could build replacements, and submarines were doing most of the bleeding. Seawolf herself? 15 war patrols. 13 battle stars. 71,609 tons of enemy shipping sent to the bottom of the Pacific. To put that in perspective, that's the equivalent of sinking about 35 cargo ships or a dozen warships. Not bad for a 310-foot tube of steel and diesel fuel. We're talking about a submarine that attacked the transport Sagami Maru 3 separate times in Davao Gulf, while under fire from deck guns and aircraft. The first torpedo hit at 10 hours and 50 minutes in the morning, causing the ship to list 30 degrees to starboard. The Japanese crew manned their deck guns and started firing back. Most submarines would have called it a day and slipped away. Not Seawolf. She circled back and hit the ship again at 11 hours and 31 minutes, this time blowing the aft gun platform clean off the deck. Then, just to make absolutely sure the message was received, she came back a third time before noon and put another torpedo into the dying ship, while Japanese aircraft and patrol boats hunted her like a pack of angry hornets. That's not cautious submarine warfare. That's a submarine crew with ice water in their veins and absolutely zero interest in leaving a job half-finished. We're also talking about a boat that torpedoed the cruiser Naka during the Japanese invasion of Christmas Island, scoring a hit that caused significant damage, then slipped away like a ghost while enemy destroyers thrashed the water looking for her. This was a submarine whose crew could thread needles in the dark, fire spreads that sank multiple ships in one salvo, execute night surface attacks that would make modern special operations forces nod with approval, and vanish before enemy escorts even figured out where the torpedoes came from. Seawolf's crew weren't rookies playing submarine simulator on easy mode. These were professionals. Battle-tested. Veterans who'd survived more close calls with Japanese destroyers than most sailors would see in 3 careers. But by October 1944, Seawolf wasn't hunting Japanese convoys anymore. She'd been reassigned to special operations, the kind of missions where the briefing starts with, "If you get caught, we never met you," and ends with everyone signing about 50 confidentiality agreements. The glamorous life of a submarine had shifted from torpedo runs to playing taxi service for spies and commandos. The mission, playing Uber for America's most elite soldiers. Seawolf's final mission was simple on paper: transport 17 Army passengers, including elite Alamo scouts whose job descriptions read like a Tom Clancy novel, from Manus to a secret insertion point near Japanese-occupied Luzon. These weren't regular infantry grunts heading to the front lines. Alamo scouts were reconnaissance specialists, the kind of operators who parachuted behind enemy lines, gathered intelligence on Japanese troop movements, sabotaged supply depots, and somehow made it back alive to brief command on what they'd seen. Think Special Forces before Special Forces was trendy. These guys trained for months in jungle warfare, advanced reconnaissance, hand-to-hand combat, and covert operations. They operated in 6-man teams, moved through enemy territory like ghosts, and had a success rate that made conventional units look like they were playing with training wheels. When Douglas MacArthur needed eyes and ears deep in Japanese-controlled territory, he sent Alamo scouts. And on October 3, 1944, 17 of them, plus 83 submariners, were heading to Luzon for a mission so classified that even decades later, the full details remain murky. The route? Straight through a designated submarine safety zone near Morotai. Now, for those of you who slept through naval doctrine class or think, submarine safety zone sounds like something from a video game tutorial, let me explain. A submarine safety zone is exactly what it sounds like: a big red circle on the map where friendly submarines operate, and you are absolutely, positively not supposed to shoot anything without triple-checking it's actually an enemy. These zones existed because submarines, by their very nature, operate underwater. They can't exactly fly American flags or paint giant stars and stripes on their hulls when they're trying to stay hidden from enemy patrol boats. Telling friend from foe when you're staring at a periscope from 3,000 yards away is harder than finding a parking spot at Costco on a Saturday afternoon. Surface ships and aircraft can't just radio every submarine they spot and ask, "Hey, are you one of ours?" Because if it is an enemy submarine, congratulations, you just gave away your position and intent. So the Navy, in a rare moment of actual intelligent planning, created these zones. They published them in all the tactical briefings. Put them on every chart. Sent memos to every commander in the theater. Basically did everything short of skywriting. "Don't shoot here, you idiots!" across the Pacific sky in letters visible from space. The system was simple. Submarines operate in the zone. Surface ships and aircraft either stay clear entirely, or if they must engage a contact in the zone, they check, and double-check, and triple-check, that it's actually an enemy before opening fire. It's the naval equivalent of a designated crosswalk. Yes, pedestrians can cross anywhere, but if you hit someone in the crosswalk, you're not just negligent, you're catastrophically, legally, morally in the wrong. Easy system, right? Submarines operate in the zone. Everyone else exercises about 5 seconds of critical thinking before pulling the trigger. Simple. Foolproof. Absolutely impossible to screw up unless you're actively trying to fail, or operating with the situational awareness of a goldfish with a concussion. Hold that thought. We'll be coming back to it. The cast: overconfidence meets operational stupidity. Now let's meet our main characters in this theater of incompetence, the people who turned a routine mission into one of the worst friendly fire disasters in naval history. USS Seawolf and her crew, 83 officers and sailors who'd earned their dolphins the hard way, through 15 war patrols, countless enemy attacks, and more depth-charge runs than most submariners experience in a lifetime. These weren't fresh-faced recruits stumbling through their first deployment. These were professionals. The kind of crew that could execute a submerged torpedo attack in the dark, calculate firing solutions in their heads, and maintain ice-cold discipline while Japanese destroyers dropped depth charges on their heads. Plus 17 Army passengers. Elite Alamo scouts heading to a classified mission that probably involved sneaking through Japanese-held territory, gathering intelligence, and generally doing the kind of work that gets you either a medal or an unmarked grave, depending on how the mission goes. On the morning of October 3rd, Seawolf's crew did everything by the book. At 7 hours and 56 minutes, they exchanged radar recognition signals with another American submarine, USS Narwhal. Think of it as the underwater equivalent of texting your roommate. "Hey, I'm home, don't call the cops." It's standard procedure. It's how friendly submarines confirm their identity and location to each other without surfacing and broadcasting their presence to every Japanese patrol boat in a 50-mile radius. Everything was running smoothly. Routine patrol. Routine mission. No indication that in a few hours, their own teammates would be raining bombs and depth charges on them like it was target practice. USS Richard M. Rowell, D-403 destroyer escort commanded by someone whose decision-making skills were about to roast like a marshmallow over a volcano. Rowell's captain had charts showing the submarine's safety zone. He had orders not to attack submarines in that zone without positive identification. He had tactical briefings explicitly stating that 4 friendly submarines were operating in the area. He had every piece of information necessary to not screw this up. He also had the kind of overconfidence you only get from never being held accountable for mistakes. The kind of commander who looks at a rule, decides it probably doesn't apply to him specifically, and charges ahead like a caffeinated chihuahua chasing a tennis ball. Carrier pilots from USS Midway, young, eager, probably fresh from training where they learn advanced techniques like how to take off, how to land without crashing, and what bombs do when you drop them. What they apparently didn't learn was how to read a map, how to verify targets before attacking, or how to operate in a submarine safety zone without turning it into a free-fire killing field. These guys had Top Gun energy without any of the actual competence. The kind of pilots who see a submarine in the distance, assume its enemy, despite being in a zone specifically designated for friendly submarines, and immediately decide the best course of action is to drop bombs on it and sort out the details later. Together, this crew represents the perfect storm: overconfidence meeting inadequate verification procedures, institutional arrogance colliding with operational incompetence, and a command structure that apparently valued speed over accuracy and aggression over intelligence. The ego on full display. So the stage is set. You've got a veteran submarine crew operating by the book, following procedures, trusting the system to protect them. You've got elite soldiers heading to a dangerous classified mission, probably nervous but focused on the job ahead. You've got a safety system designed specifically to prevent friendly submarines from getting blown up by overeager teammates. And on the other side? You've got commanders with more confidence than sense. Pilots with itchy trigger fingers and the attention span of a goldfish. A destroyer escort captain who looked at the rules and apparently decided they were more like suggestions than actual orders. Nobody on Rowell's deck or in those aircraft thought, maybe we should slow down. Maybe we should verify this contact before opening fire. Maybe we should remember that command explicitly told us there are 4 friendly submarines operating in this exact area, and shooting one of them would be, bad. Nope. They saw a submarine. They assumed enemy. They attacked. And in doing so, they were about to hand the Japanese Navy a propaganda victory so embarrassing that the US Navy would spend decades trying to quietly sweep it under the rug. Grab your popcorn, because this tactical masterpiece is about to begin. And spoiler alert, the bad guys aren't even on stage yet. The real villains in this story are wearing the same uniform as the heroes. The catalyst: panic in the Pacific. Early morning, October 3rd, 1944. The Pacific is calm. Seawolf is running her route, business as usual. The crew is probably thinking about breakfast, about the mission ahead, about how routine this whole operation feels compared to dodging Japanese destroyers in hostile waters. At 7 hours and 56 minutes, they exchange radar recognition signals with USS Narwhal. Everything's smooth. Everything's by the book. Then, at 8 hours and 7 minutes, all hell breaks loose. Japanese submarine RO-41, an actual enemy submarine, not a figment of paranoid imagination, ambushes destroyer escort USS Shelton. Torpedoes rip through Shelton's hull. The ship's going down. Real enemy. Real casualties. Real panic sweeping through the American fleet like wildfire. Now, imagine you're a sailor on one of those ships. You just watched a friendly destroyer get torpedoed and start sinking. Your buddies are in the water. The enemy submarine is still out there somewhere, probably lining up another shot. Adrenaline is pumping. Fear and anger are mixing into a cocktail of bad decision-making. You want revenge. You want to hunt down that Japanese sub and send it to the Shadow Realm. That emotional state? That's when training and discipline are supposed to kick in. That's when commanders are supposed to take a breath, follow procedures, and make sure they're shooting at the right target before pulling the trigger. Spoiler, that's not what happened. Standard procedure kicks in, at least the first part of it. Command radios all friendly submarines in the area. Identify yourselves now. We're about to start blasting, so if you're American, this would be a great time to say so. 3 submarines respond immediately, like good students raising their hands in class. Yep, we're here. Don't shoot us. Seawolf? Radio silence. Now, here's the thing. There are about a dozen perfectly innocent reasons why Seawolf might not respond immediately. Maybe she's running deep to avoid Japanese patrol boats. Maybe she's in the middle of a tricky maneuver and can't surface to send a signal. Maybe her radio equipment is glitching. Submarine radios in 1944 weren't exactly known for their reliability. Maybe her crew is busy doing, submarine things, and didn't hear the radio check because they were focused on not running into an underwater reef or getting spotted by enemy aircraft. But instead of waiting a few minutes, instead of double-checking the list of 4 authorized friendly submarines operating in the zone, instead of exercising even a shred of patience or critical thinking, Command makes a decision that will haunt naval history for decades. She didn't respond. Must be another Japanese sub. Light her up. This is the military equivalent of your mom asking, "Did everyone take out the trash?" 3 kids say yes. 1 doesn't answer because they're in the shower. And instead of waiting 30 seconds or checking the bathroom, Mom assumes a burglar broke into the house, is hiding in the garage, and immediately calls a SWAT team to breach and clear. Red flag number 1, the pilots who skipped reading comprehension class. Enter the flyboys from the carrier USS Midway. These guys are pumped. Adrenaline's flowing. They're ready to be heroes. Probably already imagining their future Navy Cross ceremonies and the stories they'll tell at the officers' club about how they avenged USS Shelton. One of the pilots spots a submarine submerging in the distance. Now, any rational human being operating in a designated submarine safety zone, a zone that's literally marked on their charts, briefed in their pre-flight instructions, and hammered into them during training, would think, this is a safety zone for friendly subs. 4 American submarines are authorized to be here. Maybe I should, I don't know, verify the target before dropping bombs on it. But no. Our Top Gun wannabe sees a sub and his brain immediately goes. Submarine equals enemy. Enemy equals bombs. Bombs equal glory. No verification. No radio check. No quick glance at his kneeboard to confirm he's not in the literal "Don't shoot American submarines here" zone. Just pure, unfiltered confidence backed by zero critical thinking and the kind of tunnel vision that turns competent pilots into accidental war criminals. He doesn't call it in for confirmation. Doesn't circle for a second look. Doesn't do literally anything except line up his bombing run and let loose. Boom. Boom. 2 bombs. Because if you're going to screw up, you might as well commit to it with both hands. Water geysers into the air. The submarine, Seawolf, though the pilot doesn't know that yet, takes 2 direct hits. Inside that submarine, alarms are blaring. Crew members are scrambling. The hull is groaning from the impact. Seawater is probably already leaking through stress fractures. And the crew is thinking, what the hell? We're in a safety zone. Why are Americans dropping bombs on us? But the pilot? He's feeling great. He marks the location with dye, bright-colored water that floats on the surface like a giant. X marks the spot sign, and radios his buddies. Got a contact. Marked it for you. You're welcome. It's teamwork. It's coordination. It's efficiency. It's also catastrophically, horrifyingly wrong, but hey, nobody's checked that minor detail yet. Picture this, you're driving through a school zone. There are signs everywhere. School zone. Slow down. Children present. You see someone in the crosswalk. Instead of slowing down, you floor it, hit them, then radio your friends to come help you. Finish the job, because you assume they were a burglar, despite all evidence to the contrary. That's the level of incompetence we're dealing with. Red flag number 2, Rowell's. Screw the rules, I have a hedgehog. Moment. Meanwhile, destroyer escort USS Richard M. Rowell sees the dye marker floating on the surface. The captain's eyes light up like a kid on Christmas morning. We've got a target. Let's go get that enemy submarine. Rowell charges toward the dye marker like a dog chasing a tennis ball. His sonar operator picks up a contact. They've definitely got a submarine down there. And according to the pilot, it's enemy. Time to rack up a kill and avenge USS Shelton. There's just one tiny problem. Well, actually, several problems, but let's start with the big one. Rowell's captain knows he's in a submarine safety zone. It's on his charts. It was in his briefing. The boundaries are clearly marked. He's not operating in some ambiguous gray area where maybe the rules apply, maybe they don't. He is explicitly, unambiguously in a zone designated for friendly submarine operations. The rules are crystal clear: don't attack submarines here without positive identification. If you're not 100% certain it's an enemy, you don't fire. Period. Full stop. End of discussion. But Seawolf didn't answer the radio check. And in the captain's mind, that's all the justification he needs. The safety zone? More of a suggestion than a rule. The explicit orders not to attack without confirmation? Probably don't apply in this specific situation because reasons. It's like seeing a no parking, tow zone sign parking your car anyway, and when the tow truck shows up arguing, well, I didn't see any cops, so I assumed it was fine. Except instead of getting your car towed, you're about to send 100 Americans to the Shadow Realm. The sailor operating the Hedgehog launcher probably looked at his commanding officer with an expression that screamed, "Sir, are we absolutely sure about this?" But you don't question your captain in the heat of battle. Orders are orders. Doubt gets people killed, or so the thinking goes. So the order is given. Hedgehogs away. For those unfamiliar with World War II anti-submarine weapons, hedgehogs aren't your grandfather's depth charges that roll off the back of a ship and explode at preset depths. Hedgehogs are rocket-propelled contact grenades that launch in a pattern, arch through the air, hit the water, sink down, and detonate on contact with a submarine hull. They're designed to shred submarines like a cheese grater going to work on steel. They hit the water. Descend. And somewhere below, Seawolf's sonar operator hears them coming and his blood runs cold. High fives all around on Rowell's deck. We got him, boys! Another Japanese sub bites the dust! We just avenged Shelton! Except, whoops, it's not a Japanese submarine. It's USS Seawolf. American submarine. American crew. American soldiers heading to a classified mission. All of them now facing death not from the enemy, but from their own teammates who couldn't be bothered to follow basic safety protocols. Red flag number 3, the follow-up that never came. Here's where the tragedy shifts from catastrophic mistake to organizational negligence. On October 4th, the next day, Command radios Seawolf again. Hey, where are you? Give us your position. Silence. Dead air. The kind of silence that should make alarm bells ring louder than a fire drill in a cathedral. At this exact point, someone at headquarters should be connecting dots. Wait. We had a destroyer escort hunting submarines in a safety zone yesterday. One of our submarines isn't responding today. Those submarines were operating in the same area. Maybe, and I'm just spitballing here, we should immediately investigate whether Rowell accidentally blew up our own boat. But no. Command just waits. Maybe she's running silent? Maybe her radio's broken. Maybe she'll call back tomorrow. No urgency. No investigation. No. Hey, Rowell, what exactly did you shoot at yesterday? And are you 100% certain it was actually Japanese? It's the organizational equivalent of losing your car keys, noticing a pile of broken glass where you parked, a tow truck driving away with something that looks suspiciously like your vehicle, and still thinking, my car probably just drove away on its own. I'm sure it'll turn up. Days turn into weeks. Command keeps calling. Seawolf never answers. And meanwhile, on the ocean floor, Seawolf sits as a tomb for 100 brave Americans who trusted the system to protect them. The perfect storm of incompetence. Picture this scene one more time, because it's important to understand just how many failures had to align for this disaster to happen. Deep underwater, Seawolf's crew is doing exactly what they were trained to do. Running silent. Avoiding detection. Navigating carefully. Trusting that their fellow Americans know where they are and won't shoot them in the back. The Army passengers are probably nervous but focused, clutching their gear, thinking about the dangerous mission ahead. Maybe some of them are writing letters home in their heads. Maybe they're reviewing mission parameters. Maybe they're just trying to stay calm in the cramped, diesel-smelling confines of a World War II submarine. None of them realize that the real danger isn't Japanese patrol boats, enemy aircraft, or naval mines. The real danger is above them, wearing American uniforms, flying American planes, operating American ships, and about to make a mistake so catastrophic that it will be quietly buried in classified files for decades. Above the surface, pilots and destroyer crews are pumped full of adrenaline and righteous fury. They're hunting for the submarine that torpedoed Shelton. They're following doctrine, sort of. Engaging targets, without proper verification. Doing what warriors do, except the target isn't the enemy. It's the perfect storm: overconfidence, poor communication, ignored protocols, institutional arrogance, and the kind of shoot first, ask questions never mentality that turns soldiers into killers of their own people. And the punchline? Nobody realized the mistake for days. Weeks. Months. The cover-up, intentional or not, was so effective that families of the dead were told their loved ones died fighting the Japanese, which is technically true only if you define fighting very, very loosely. The moment of glory. October 3, 1944. The sun's barely clawing its way over the Pacific horizon, painting the water in shades of gold and orange, and soon, regret. Somewhere beneath those waves, USS Seawolf is doing what submarines do best: running silent, running deep, staying invisible. Her crew trusts the system. They're in a safety zone. They've sent their recognition signals. They're operating by the book. Above the surface, destroyer escort USS Richard M. Rowell and a pair of carrier pilots are about to earn their place in the "Oops, we did a massacre, but it was legal on paperwork" Hall of Shame. Picture the scene on Rowell's deck. The crew is hyped. Adrenaline is pumping like they just mainlined espresso and Monster Energy. USS Shelton just got torpedoed by a real Japanese submarine, and now it's payback time. Every sailor on that destroyer escort is thinking the same thing. We're about to be heroes. We're about to avenge our buddies. We're about to send an enemy submarine to the Shadow Realm and earn medals for it. The sonar operator has his headphones clamped tight, listening to the pings bouncing off the submarine hull below. To him, it sounds like victory. It sounds like revenge. It doesn't sound like an American submarine desperately trying to identify itself before getting blown to pieces. The weapons crew is locked and loaded. Mark 10 Hedgehog charges are primed and ready. These aren't the old-school depth charges that just roll off the back and explode at preset depths. Hedgehogs are rocket-propelled contact grenades designed by someone who really, really hated submarines. They launch in a spread pattern, arch through the air like angry fireworks, hit the water, sink, and detonate on contact with the hull. They turn submarines into scrap metal confetti. Everyone's ready. Everyone's excited. Nobody's bothering with that pesky little thing called verification. Then, one of the Midway pilots radios in. "I've got visual on a submarine. It's submerging." His voice probably has that edge of excitement, that "I'm about to make ace" energy that young pilots get when they think glory is within reach. Now, remember where they are. This is literally a submarine safety zone. It's marked on every chart. It was in every briefing. Command explicitly said 4 friendly submarines are operating here. This pilot is sitting in the cockpit of an aircraft, in a designated "Don't shoot American submarines" area, looking at a submarine, and his brain makes the leap. Must be enemy. He doesn't call for confirmation. Doesn't double-check coordinates. Doesn't think, maybe I should verify before I drop high explosives on this thing. Nope. He just lines up, releases, and boom. Boom. 2 bombs. Direct hits. Water erupts in massive geysers. The concussion waves ripple outward. And inside Seawolf, all hell breaks loose. Alarms are shrieking. The hull groans and shrieks like a wounded animal as metal bends under stress it was never designed to handle. Light bulbs shatter. Loose equipment flies across compartments. Sailors are thrown against bulkheads. Seawater starts seeping, then spraying, through stress fractures in the hull. And the crew realizes, someone just bombed them. In a safety zone. Their own people. The captain probably shouts orders to send recognition signals. Morse code. Anything. Tell them we're American. Tell them to stop shooting. Raoul's tactical masterpiece. On the surface, Raoul sees the dye marker left by the pilot. It's like a giant neon sign saying, "Enemy submarine here." The captain orders full steam ahead. They're going in for the kill. Sonar locks onto the contact. And here's where it gets simultaneously heartbreaking and infuriating. The submarine starts sending signals. Dots and dashes. Morse code. Frantic, desperate attempts to communicate. "We're American. Stop shooting. For the love of God, check your charts." Raoul's radio operator hears it. Reports it to the captain. And the captain makes a decision that will define his legacy in the worst possible way. He decides the signals bear no resemblance to existing recognition signals. Now, let's think about this for a second. The submarine was just hit by 2 bombs. Systems are failing. The hull is taking on water. Equipment is damaged. Radio gear might be glitching. And Raoul's captain, instead of thinking, maybe the signal is garbled because we just bombed them, decides, this must be jamming. They're trying to trick us. Fire everything. It's the military equivalent of someone knocking on your front door yelling, "I'm your neighbor, don't shoot," and you responding by unloading both barrels of a shotgun through the door because their voice sounded a little off. The order is given. Hedgehogs launch. Picture it, 24 rocket-propelled grenades arching through the air in a spread pattern. They hit the water with a sound like angry rain. They sink. And somewhere below, in the darkened, flooding interior of USS Seawolf, the crew hears them coming. They know what hedgehogs sound like. They've trained on the sounds of different weapons. And they know, with absolute certainty, that they're about to die. Not at the hands of the enemy. At the hands of their own teammates. Imagine being in that submarine in those final moments. The lights have failed. Emergency lighting casts everything in demonic red. Water is flooding in from multiple hull breaches, cold Pacific seawater spraying with the force of fire hoses. You can hear the groaning of metal being crushed by pressure. You're sending recognition signals as fast as your fingers can tap the transmitter key, screaming into the radio that you're American, please stop, we're on your side. And then you hear the splash of hedgehogs hitting the water above. And you know they're not stopping. You know they think you're the enemy. And you know there's absolutely nothing you can do except grab onto something and hope your death is quick. The kill. The second salvo hits home. Underwater explosions ripple through the Pacific like the devil's drumbeat. 24 contact grenades detonating against Seawolf's hull in a pattern specifically designed to shred submarines. It's not a clean death. It's not a quick death. It's catastrophic structural failure at depth. Hull breaches multiply. Bulkheads collapse. Compartments flood in seconds. The pressure of the ocean, thousands of pounds per square inch, crushes steel like an aluminum can under a boot. Sailors in flooded compartments drown in darkness. Those in sealed compartments suffocate as air runs out and toxic fumes build up. The submarine, mortally wounded, begins its final descent to the ocean floor. 83 crew members. 17 Army passengers. 100 men total. Elite Alamos scouts who'd survived training that broke lesser men, who'd been heading to infiltrate Japanese-held territory on a mission that might have changed the war. Submariners who'd survived 15 war patrols, countless depth charge attacks from actual enemies, and every hazard the Pacific could throw at them. All of them dying not in combat with the enemy, but because their own teammates couldn't follow basic safety procedures. No heroic last stand. No climactic battle. Just drowning in the dark while American weapons tear their boat apart. Up on Raoul's deck, celebration. Debris rises to the surface. Metal fragments. Oil slicks spreading across the water like blood. Personal effects, maybe a sailor's cap, a photograph, a letter from home, floating like tragic confetti. The crew is high-fiving. Cheering. Congratulating each other on a successful kill. Someone's probably already drafting the after-action report, listing it as enemy submarine destroyed. The sonar operator reports the contact is gone. Silence. No more signals. The submarine is dead. Raoul's captain probably lights a cigar, permits himself a satisfied smile. Another enemy submarine sent to the bottom. Another win for the good guys. Maybe this earns him a commendation. Maybe a promotion. Definitely a good story for the officers' club. Wrong. So catastrophically, historically, unforgivably wrong. The bitter irony. Let's talk about USS Seawolf's actual record, because the irony here is so thick you could cut it with a torpedo. 15 war patrols. 13 battle stars, more than most submarines earned in the entire war. 71,609 tons of Japanese shipping sent to the ocean floor. She'd tangled with destroyers, outrun aircraft, executed night surface attacks against protected convoys, and survived situations that would have sent lesser boats to the bottom. On her 11th patrol, she attacked the transport Sagami Maru 3 separate times while under fire from deck guns and aircraft. Most submarine captains would have fired once and run. Seawolf's captain attacked, got hit by return fire, circled back, attacked again, took more fire, then came back a third time just to make absolutely sure the enemy's ship was finished. That's not caution. That's not by-the-book submarine warfare. That's a crew with ice in their veins and zero quit. The Japanese Navy threw everything they had at Seawolf over 15 patrols. Destroyers. Aircraft. Patrol boats. Mines. They never got her. Her own team managed it in under an hour, in a safety zone, while she was actively trying to identify herself. That's not fog of war. That's not an understandable mistake in the chaos of battle. That's criminal negligence dressed up in military jargon and bureaucratic double-talk. The realization, sort of. Here's the part that should make your blood boil. October 4th, the next day, command radios Seawolf. Report your position. Silence. October 5th. Seawolf, respond. Nothing. Days turn into weeks. Command keeps calling. Seawolf never answers. And at no point, does anyone in the chain of command think to immediately investigate. You'd think someone would connect dots. We had Raoul hunting subs in a safety zone on October 3rd. Seawolf stopped responding on October 4th. Maybe we should, check if there's a connection? But no. The organizational incompetence that allowed the attack continues into the aftermath. No urgent investigation. No interviews with Raoul's crew. No comparison of attack coordinates with known friendly submarine positions. Just waiting. Hoping Seawolf will eventually call back. Finally, on December 28, 1944, almost 3 full months after the incident, the Navy officially declares USS Seawolf overdue from patrol and presumed lost. Not killed by friendly fire. Not victim of catastrophic command failure. Just overdue and presumed lost. Like she missed her curfew and forgot to call Mom. Even then, the official reports dance around the truth. Possible operational casualty. Perhaps an unrecorded enemy attack. Anything to avoid saying the quiet part out loud. We murdered our own people through incompetence. Post-war, when historians comb through Japanese records to account for every submarine lost, they find nothing. No Japanese submarine attack in that area. No destroyer action. No aircraft kill. No minefield. Nothing that could explain Seawolf's loss. Nothing except the obvious truth: friendly fire. The Japanese Navy didn't get Seawolf. We did. And the sailors on Seawolf? They died doing everything right. Following orders. Operating in their assigned zone. Sending recognition signals. Trying to identify themselves even as bombs and hedgehogs rained down. They were professionals executing their mission with the skill that earned 13 battle stars. The commanders who killed them ignored protocols, attacked in a safety zone, dismissed identification attempts, and walked away with clean consciences and unblemished records. If there's a lesson here, it's this: confidence without competence is just another way of saying, "I'm about to commit a massacre and call it victory." And in war, when you screw up, people die. Sometimes, tragically, inexcusably, they're your own people, wearing your uniform, trusting you not to shoot them in the back. The awkward silence. So October 3, 1944 wraps up. USS Richard M. Rowell steams away from the debris field, crew patting themselves on the back, trading congratulations like they just won a championship. The pilots from USS Midway land on the carrier deck, probably already composing the telegram home. "Got a submarine today. Bet the folks back home will be proud." Everyone sleeps well that night. Clean consciences. Heroes in their own minds. Blissfully, tragically unaware that they just committed one of the greatest friendly fire disasters in naval history and sent 100 Americans to the Shadow Realm. October 4th arrives. Somewhere in a Navy communications center, a radioman tries to reach Seawolf. "Seawolf, report your position." Static. Silence. Dead air. The kind of silence that should trigger immediate investigation. The kind of silence that should make someone think, "Hey, we had destroyer escorts and aircraft hunting submarines in a safety zone yesterday. Maybe we should check if anyone accidentally shot at something they shouldn't have." But no. Command just waits. Maybe she's running deep? Equipment malfunction? She'll call back eventually, right? Days pass. Then a week. Command keeps calling. Seawolf never answers. And here's the thing that should make you want to throw something. Nobody connects the dots. Nobody at Navy headquarters thinks, "We had Rowell engaging contacts in a submarine safety zone on October 3rd. Seawolf went silent on October 3rd. 4 friendly submarines were authorized in that area. Maybe, just maybe, we should investigate if there's a connection?" It's organizational incompetence so profound it borders on willful ignorance. Picture losing your car keys, noticing your car is gone, seeing a tow truck driving away, finding a parking ticket on the ground, and still thinking, "Weird. My car probably just drove itself home." The official, oopsie, report. Finally, on December 28, 1944, nearly 3 full months after Seawolf went silent, the Navy officially declares her overdue from patrol and presumed lost. Not killed by friendly fire in a catastrophic command failure. Not accidentally destroyed by forces under our command who ignored safety protocols. Just overdue and presumed lost, with all the emotional weight of reporting a late library book. The casualty report lists the names: 83 submarine crew, 17 Army passengers, 100 Americans. Among them, elite Alamo scouts heading to a classified reconnaissance mission. Specialists trained in jungle warfare, covert operations, and intelligence gathering. The kind of soldiers you can't replace. All dead. Not from Japanese torpedoes, not from depth charges dropped by enemy destroyers, not from mines or mechanical failure. Dead because someone couldn't be bothered to read a map and follow basic safety procedures. On January 20th, 1945, USS Seawolf is officially stricken from the Naval Vessel Register. No ceremony. No acknowledgement of what really happened. Just a quiet administrative deletion, like removing an embarrassing photo from social media. The families receive telegrams. Your son/husband/father was lost in action in the Pacific theater. Technically true. Morally reprehensible in what it omits. These families went to their graves believing their loved ones died fighting the Japanese, never knowing the truth. They were killed by their own side. The investigation, massive air quotes. Here's where it gets extra infuriating. After the war ends, military historians start the massive project of accounting for every submarine lost. They cross-reference American casualties against Japanese records, attack reports, kill claims, patrol logs. For every submarine, they tried to determine exactly how and when it was sunk. For most boats, there's a clear answer. Enemy destroyer depth charge attack. Aircraft bombs. Mines. Japanese records confirm it. For Seawolf? Nothing. Zero. The Japanese Navy has no record of sinking an American submarine in that area on October 3, 1944. No destroyer reported a kill. No aircraft claimed a submarine. No minefield was recorded there. The evidence is overwhelming, friendly fire. But even then, even with all the evidence pointing to the obvious truth, the official Navy history hedges. The language is a masterpiece of bureaucratic weaseling. While it is possible Seawolf was lost to an operational casualty or as a result of an unrecorded enemy attack, it is more likely she was sunk by friendly fire. More likely. Not. Almost certainly. Not. The evidence conclusively shows. Just, more likely, the same phrasing you'd use to describe the weather forecast, not the wrongful death of 100 Americans. It's linguistic gymnastics designed to avoid one simple, damning sentence. We screwed up. We killed our own people. It was preventable. We did it anyway. Who got fired? Spoiler, absolutely nobody. In a rational universe, this is where accountability happens. Courts-martial. Demotions. Careers ending in disgrace. The captain of USS Rowell explaining to a panel of stone-faced admirals why he attacked a submarine in a safety zone without positive identification. The pilots explaining why they bombed a target in a restricted area without verification. In a rational universe, there would be consequences. But the military doesn't operate in a rational universe. It operates in a universe where admitting mistakes is career suicide and covering them up is standard operating procedure. As far as historical records show, nobody got fired. Nobody got demoted. Nobody faced a court-martial. Rowell's captain probably went on to finish the war with a spotless record. The pilots? They probably earned medals for anti-submarine operations. It's the institutional equivalent of burning down your neighbor's house, getting caught on security camera, and then receiving Firefighter of the Year. Because you called 911 after you realized what you'd done. The cover-up, or more charitably, the institutional reluctance to confront uncomfortable truths, was so effective that it took decades for the full story to emerge. For years, USS Seawolf was simply listed as lost in action, lumped together with submarines actually sunk by the enemy. Her story got buried under classification stamps and bureaucratic language. And the families? They got official letters thanking them for their loved ones' service and sacrifice in combat against the Japanese Empire. Which is technically true only if you define combat against the Japanese Empire very, very creatively. The historians roast, a master class in incompetence. All right, let's talk about why this deserves a permanent exhibit in the Museum of Military Stupidity. Not because it was the bloodiest mistake. Though 100 dead Americans is nothing to minimize. Not because it changed the outcome of the war, Seawolf's loss, tragic as it was, didn't alter the strategic situation. But in terms of pure, concentrated, multi-layered incompetence? This is Hall of Fame material. The setup. The Navy created submarine safety zones specifically to prevent friendly submarines from getting blown up by overeager teammates. They published the zones on every chart. Included them in every briefing. Sent specific notifications that 4 friendly submarines were operating in this exact area. They did everything except install giant neon signs saying, "American submarines here. Do not shoot." This wasn't ambiguous. This wasn't a gray area. This was explicit, unambiguous, written in block letters protocol: don't attack submarines in this zone without positive identification. The execution: for this disaster to happen, multiple failures had to occur simultaneously. The pilots had to ignore the safety zone markers on their charts. Raoul's captain had to ignore the safety zone he knew he was operating in. The sonar operator had to dismiss recognition signals as jamming, instead of thinking, "Hey, maybe these garbled signals are coming from a damaged American submarine we just bombed." Command had to fail to immediately investigate when Seawolf went silent the day after an attack in her operational area. It's like failing an open book test where the teacher is literally pointing at the answers and whispering, "It's B. The answer is B. Please, for the love of all that is holy, just write B." The aftermath, and then, nobody faced consequences. The institutional response was to quietly admit, "Whoops, maybe friendly fire." Decades later, while ensuring no careers were harmed in the making of this disaster, 100 men died. Families were lied to. A legendary submarine's true story was buried. And the response was bureaucratic shrugs and passive voice press releases. This is what happens when institutional ego trumps accountability. When never admit mistakes becomes more important than learn from mistakes. When the priority is protecting careers and reputations instead of protecting the people who trust you with their lives. The legacy: don't be like Raoul. USS Seawolf's story is a cautionary tale that should be taught in every military academy, every officer training program, every leadership course. The commanders involved genuinely believed they were doing the right thing. They saw a submarine. They assumed enemy. They attacked with the kind of confidence you only get from never being held accountable for being wrong. But confidence without competence is just a recipe for catastrophe. Speed without verification is just recklessness. And in this case, that toxic combination cost 100 American lives. The lesson? Read the protocols. Follow the procedures. Double-check your targets. And for the love of everything sacred, if someone sends recognition signals from inside a submarine safety zone, pause for 5 seconds before launching the hedgehogs. Because the alternative is standing in front of historians 80 years later while they explain to the world how you accidentally sent a 13 Battlestar submarine and her crew to the Shadow Realm because you couldn't be bothered to verify your target. Seawolf's crew deserved better. They deserved commanders who valued accuracy over speed. They deserved pilots who checked their charts. They deserved a system that protected them instead of killing them. What they got was institutional arrogance meeting operational incompetence, and it cost them their lives. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the Navy's most embarrassing moments, and by enjoyed, I mean, were horrified but couldn't look away, hit that subscribe button. Because military history is absolutely filled with genius commanders making catastrophically stupid decisions, and somebody needs to make sure we remember them. Not to glorify the failures, but to learn from them. To make sure the next generation of military leaders reads these stories and thinks, "Yeah, I'm not going to be that guy." The sailors on USS Seawolf deserved better. They deserved commanders who followed the rules they were given. They deserved pilots who took 30 seconds to verify targets before dropping bombs. They deserved a Navy that valued the lives of its people more than protecting the egos of officers who screwed up. Instead, they got sent to the Shadow Realm by their own teammates, in a safety zone specifically designed to protect them, while actively trying to identify themselves. And then their story got buried for decades under layers of bureaucratic doublespeak and classified stamps because admitting the truth would have been embarrassing. So subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Share this video with anyone who thinks friendly fire is just an unfortunate accident instead of what it really is, a failure of leadership, training, and accountability. Let's make sure future generations of military commanders don't repeat the mistakes of October 3, 1944. Because the only thing worse than dying for your country is dying because your country forgot you were on the team. Because your commanders couldn't read a map. Because someone decided their ego was more important than your life. Rest in peace to the crew of USS Seawolf. 83 submariners who survived 15 war patrols only to be killed by their own side. 17 Alamos scouts who trained for months to infiltrate enemy territory, only to drown in the dark before they ever got the chance. 100 Americans who trusted the system to protect them, and paid for that trust with their lives. You deserve better. History remembers your service. History remembers your sacrifice. And to the commanders who sent them to the Shadow Realm? History remembers you too. And history is not kind to those who kill their own through arrogance and incompetence. Don't be like Raoul. Don't be like those pilots. Read the manual. Follow the protocols. Check your targets. And maybe, just maybe, we won't have to tell stories like this one ever again.